How's it going, everyone? It's David here, and welcome back to another episode of Hemlock Hills, a traditional amusement park that I am building here in Planet Coaster 2. In the last episode, I built Calamity, a custom aero looping coaster, complete with custom-made supports and scenery to tie it all together. And to kick things off with this episode, we are going to begin filling in this void right across from Calamity. Now, I did add an on-ride photo for Calamity, so I figure we should have a on-ride photo booth near the exit of the ride. So I'm going to add this as well as a small food stand, but to help fill in this space, I figure I add in some Midway games. And I think having Midway games is quintessential for a traditional American amusement park. Now, unfortunately, in Planet Coaster, there are no functional Midway games. In fact, there's not really any functional Midway games from any theme park simulation game that I can remember, which is unfortunate. It really is part of the experience. But using these blueprints, I think it is going to be simple, but it's going to add a little bit of lively atmosphere here onto the Midway, even if they are not functional. And adding the photo booth, a balloon stand, and a small food booth, it's going to be an all-in-one building that's going to stretch here from the front end to the back end of this little pathway here. But let's get into what this episode is really all about, and that is building an old mill style dark ride. Now, an old mill boat ride was common at amusement parks around, and there's not too many left. Probably the most famous ones that come to mind are the Old Mill at Kennywood and Ye Old Mill at Rye Playland, and I'm going to be taking those as inspiration. Now, I was searching around, and from what I could tell, I don't think anyone has dabbled into trying to make an old mill dark ride. So I'm going to try my best, and hopefully it all works out. After getting a general layout of what I wanted, I first wanted to see if this could actually work. Now, I was originally going to use the standard log flume, but instead I used the antique water coaster, mainly because the pieces are smaller and a bit more versatile than the standard log flume, meaning you can go onto some tighter curves, and also the excitement rating in-game is just naturally higher for this. So even if I don't have any big hills, it's going to have decent stats, and it's going to make the peeps come and ride this ride. Now, one of my favorite new features on Planet Coaster 2 is the ability to add scenery onto ride vehicles. And using these wooden posts and wooden planks very meticulously, and also with trial and error, made wooden shaped boats that are in general in the shape of the old mill boats that you would see at Kennywood. More or less, had to take some liberties. And because with these added scenery pieces, it is going to be naturally bigger than the actual log flume boat. So there will be some clipping a little bit here and there, especially on the tight corners, as well as boats bumping into one another. But as the ride is moving one by one, I think it will look fine, and I'm actually quite pleased with this. It's now time to make a station for this ride, and I wanted to give it more or less like an old mill look to it. Now, I started to build this before I went on with the general Western theme, but it still works out at the end, having these big iron girders and the steel congregated roof with a wood plank posts and base. And right behind it, I'm going to add what is a quintessential part for an old mill, and that is a water wheel. Now, Planet Coaster 2 actually has a pre-made scenery piece that is a working water wheel, and I just used that. I thought that looked good. And then I added some water splash effects around it to give the illusion that yes, in this water wheel there is running water, and this is actually the main mechanism that helps make the water flow for this boat ride. I'm adding a fake facade around it too that does look like an old mill. Even though I'm not calling it an old mill, it is still an old mill at heart, and I still wanted to give it that classic look. If you go to the old mill, say at Kennywood, the ride pretty much is one long tunnel. It's not in one big show building. So to do this, I'm using the non-grid based wall pieces, and after getting a basic frame that has good clearance all around, basically copy and paste and meticulously move every little piece around the entire course. And I did this off and on, and it's a very slow process. This actually took me a couple of hours to do this alone, so I'm not going to bore you with showing me doing this the entire process. But before we finish that, as I'm working along, I'm going to be adding some show scenes. Now, in Planet Coaster 2, there is no general spooky theme at all, so instead I went for a Western theme, and I'm going to be calling this ride just the Western River. Now, the general, more or less, story I'm trying to go for here is that there is a bandit dressed in black with a red bandana coming into town, causing some mischiefs, shooting it up with the locals, and then ultimately getting away at the end. I am not trying to go for a 3-act structure here. It is more or less just to give off a general vibe. For an old mill style dark ride, there are indoor show scenes, but there are also outdoor show scenes. And here on these turns, I'm going to have outdoor show scenes here on the infield. Similar again to how Kennywood used to have it. Some major scenes I am including here is a outdoor train station where it has the bandit coming into town. I then have an indoor show scene that shows the main western town where the bandit is shooting it up with the locals and not going three-dimensional. It is supposed to look flat and cheap. I had some wooden cutouts of storefronts such as a bank, saloon, sheriff's office, etc. And with some overhanging signs, it does make it feel a bit more dimensional. Another scene is with the authorities coming in and trying to catch the bandit here out in the wild at his camp. And then he has a stick of dynamite, there'll be a little bit of an explosion, and then he gets away at the end, and I added a coffin here just to symbolize, yeah, the bandit did win again this time. After all that was done, going to be adding in some lighting as well as some triggerable audio pieces and to add triggers to these animatronics. Okay, after many hours, I believe the Western River Old Mill is complete, and I am actually quite pleased with how this turned out, especially with the water wheel, the custom boats, and having a custom tunnel that goes throughout the entire ride, complete with indoor and outdoor show scenes. Added some on-ride audio as well as some triggerable special effects and audio pieces, and I think this is going to be a complete experience. Now, I am not a master when it comes to dark rides here in Planet Coaster 2. There are so many amazing creations that I could never get done, but you know what? This is an old school dark ride, so it's okay if it does look a little elementary and a little bit premature. I think that does go along with the vibe that I'm trying to go with this park. So without further ado, let's take a ride on the Western River Old Mill. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like it and subscribe for more gaming and amusement park content. And with that being said, thank you all for riding, and I'll see you next time.